So recently it's been Endometriosis Awareness Month, and I wanted to make this video about my own personal journey with endometriosis and how I've used CBD to help manage the symptoms. If you have got the symptoms of endo and you're trying to get a diagnosis, or you already have been diagnosed with endometriosis, I just want to say that everything I'm talking about, you know, it can work for some people, and then for some other women it might not work. So what I found in my experience is you've just got to try different things and listen to your body and see what works best for you. So what I'll do is I'll start with just talking about the diagnosis, how I got diagnosed and the symptoms that I had before I got diagnosed. I'll also talk about the different surgeries that I've had to try and manage the symptoms, and I'll talk about what I'm going to do to move forward. So I do hope you like this video. If you do, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button so you can learn, live and share your endometriosis journey with me. Let's get into it. So I started my periods when I was about 15, so I was quite late compared to all of my other friends at the time. And yeah, my periods were really heavy. I looked like white when I had a period because I lost so much blood, probably had a bit of anemia from it. And it was a little bit painful, but it wasn't anything out of the ordinary really. I didn't notice anything bad about it. But I got my first boyfriend when I was 17, and I went on to the injection, a contraceptive injection, and I absolutely loved that because I was able to have it once every 3 months and it just completely stopped my periods, and it was just a godsend for me. So I stayed on that for quite a few years, and then after that I just went on to the contraceptive pill, or I've tried the coil. I was always on contraception of some type because I did not want to have children. I always thought I'll have children when I get older. As it happened, as I got older, I still didn't want them. So I'm very fortunate in that sense, because I know a lot of women do want to have children, and endometriosis can affect fertility. But yeah, I was lucky that I didn't really have that. I've never really had that desire. So I think I was about 36 and I was single, and I thought, you know, I'm just going to come off the contraceptive that I was on because I just wanted my body to be in a natural state really. I was, you know, I'd pumped it full of all these different hormones all my life, so I just wanted to be natural. And it was probably the worst thing I could have done really, because that's then probably about a year later when I was 37, I started to get symptoms. So at the time I was very fit and healthy. I was eating really healthy, I was meditating all the time, I was exercising 5 days a week. I was, you know, in really good shape. And then I just started getting like IBS type symptoms. I was going to the toilet, you know, diarrhea, constipation, and I was also bleeding from my back end. Now I had piles before, so I just thought, oh, it's a pile, and I thought maybe I'm getting IBS. So I didn't ignore it, but I just carried on with my life really. You know, it wasn't too painful. It was a bit of discomfort, but not too bad. I started to just change my diet a little bit. I was drinking a lot more green smoothies to help me go to the toilet. But yeah, it started to get progressively worse really. So I went to the doctors. I got really ill actually. I got really ill for about I was ill for about 2 weeks, and I was bedridden ill, and I've never been ill in my life before. So it was really quite shocking for me that I was so ill, especially considering I was so healthy in all other areas of my life. So my family and my friends were saying, you know, you really have to go to the doctors. So after about a week, I couldn't eat anything because anything I ate just came straight out of me. And the bleeding was, you know, it'd been heavy for quite a while really from my back end. So I went to the doctors, and he stuck his finger up my bum and he pulled it out, and he said, oh, that's, you know, foul smelling. And I said, oh no, I'm not well. That is why I'm here. I'm not well. So he just basically, you know, fobbed me off a little bit really, and just said, you know, you've got an infection and it will go itself after 10 days. So I carried myself back off home, went back to bed. Still a week later, I was still really ill. Again, you know, if it wasn't for my family and my friends, you know, really pushing me to keep going back to the doctors, I probably would have just just suffered with it really, because I sort of had this mentality of, you know, I don't want to waste people's time, and you know, the NHS resources are scarce, you know, I don't want to be yeah, just wasting people's time really. And maybe it's not that bad, and maybe I'm over exaggerating, and I'm being a hypochondriac. You have all of these different thoughts that go through your mind. So yeah, I went back to the doctors, and this time it was a woman, a female doctor, and she said to me, I explained I had these like IBS type symptoms. I was really, really bloated all of the time as well, which I'd never really been bloated before. And she said, you know, it does sound like IBS, and she gave me some Buscopan. And that was a lifesend, you know, it was a godsend really, because what was also happening at that time was my stomach was contracting, like you could visibly see it moving. And that was quite painful. That could be quite painful. So when she gave me the Buscopan, what that did was it just helped to relax those muscles in my stomach, and it stopped it from, you know, from fluttering all of the time and contracting. So that really did help. It helped me to eat more. I was already using CBD at this time, so I just upped the CBD dosage that I was taking, and I was using CBD oils. I was also using CBD paste, which is like a high concentration of CBD. I was vaping CBD, I was using CBD massage oils, so, you know, I was using all of it really. And luckily, you know, I was working full time, I had a business, and I was managing to do that, and I was still going to the gym, so I still had some, you know, type of life really. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't too badly affected, but it started to just get progressively worse, and I started to get a pain. I started to get a pain in like the right hand side where my ovary is, and it was such a sharp sort of pain that, you know, it sort of took your breath away. And, you know, I was like on all fours. I remember being at work, and I was just on all fours, just, you know, trying to breathe through it. I had to go home. You know, when that pain came on, I couldn't work, I couldn't function, I couldn't do anything. I had to go home, and it would last for about 12 hours. And one of my friends who's got endometriosis later on told me that those pains are like, they're the same type of pains that you have when you having labour, like contraction pains. And that's what it was. But at that time I didn't know I had endometriosis, so I wondered, you know, again, you know, your mind is trying to figure out what is going on, and I was thinking maybe my appendix have burst. You know, do I need to ring an ambulance? Have my appendix burst? You know, is this, you know, because it felt really, really serious. It was probably like 9 out of 10 pain. So again, I was telling my family and my friends, and again they were pushing me, you've got to go back to the doctors, you've got to go back to the doctors. So I went again, and this time it was a male doctor, and, you know, I just looked him in the eyes and I said, you know, I am not making this up, I'm not imagining it, you know, I'm not a hypochondriac. You can see my you know, my medical records. I don't come into the doctors for nothing, you know, I hardly ever come in, you know, unless it's for contraceptive. So I think he understood, you know, because I was in a pretty bad state. I'd lost a lot of weight. He said, you know, I'm going to send you for an emergency CT scan. So luckily, you know, thank God, he got me in quite quickly. I think I went in about a week later. And yeah, as soon as I did the CT scan, they saw that I had an endometrioma in my ovary. And they told me, you know, we suspect it's endometriosis. So, you know, it was a relief. It was just like, oh, you know, finally I know what it is, you know, because once you know what something is, then you can try and, you know, change your diet, or, you know, try different things to try and manage it. So yeah, I was really grateful that I'd finally found out what it was. And he said that I needed to go in for an operation. It would be liposcopy. I can never say it. Liposcopy surgery, you know what I mean? Like an explorative keyhole surgery. And he said to me, you know, if you're at stage 3 endometriosis, then we can remove all of it in that operation. He said, but if you're stage 4 endometriosis, then you'll have to go back to Pinderfields, which is more of a specialist endometriosis. Surgeons are there. He said, and you'll have to have the rest of it removed there, because they'll need to, you know, if it's stuck to your bowel or anything like that, you'll have to have a bowel surgeon and the endometriosis surgeon as well. So I went in for that surgery. I don't think, this was before COVID, so I don't think I had to wait that long, maybe, I can't remember now, maybe 3 to 6 months. It didn't feel that long, but at least I knew when that you know, really bad pain came on, I knew that I was all right. I knew it wasn't an appendix, and I just, even though sometimes my mind would tell me you need to ring an ambulance, I felt more comfortable staying at home in my boxer shorts, near to the toilet, with my CBD and my cannabis, because, you know, I used high THC cannabis as well to manage the pain. You know, just in the comfort of my own home, really, because you know, when you're in that much pain, you're very vulnerable, and I just didn't want to, you know, be sat in a hospital waiting room, you know, feeling like that. So yeah, I never rang an ambulance, and I just sort of, with meditation and with CBD and just, you know, and breath work, just, you know, breathing through it, I just managed to, you know, get through until I had the operation. So I had the operation, and they did confirm that it was stage 4 endometriosis, and I'd have to go back and have more surgery. So what they did find was I had endometriosis on my pouch of Douglas. I had I think it was a 4 centimetre endometrioma, so it wasn't that big really, considering the ones I've had since. But yeah, they removed the endometrioma from the ovary, and they removed it, you know, wherever else they could remove it from. And straight after that operation, you know, I felt so much better, because it was the pain from the ovary that was really excruciatingly painful, like a 9 out of 10 pain. Whereas like the bowel symptoms, the endometriosis that must be in my bowel, that's like a 4 or 5 out of 10 pain. So it's manageable. I can go to work and I can function, you know, and have some type of quality of life with that type of pain. But yeah, 8 or 9 out of 10 pain, I'm bedridden, I'm at home, I can't do anything. So yeah, so I was booked in then to have my second surgery. I went to have my consultation with Dr. Kramer at Pinderfields, and he, lovely guy, really nice guy, he said to me, you know, we'll get you in for this operation. You know, there might be a bit of a waiting list, but what I'll do is, if you want, we can put you on a menopause injection until you have this operation, and what that'll do is it'll help, hopefully, to just calm the symptoms down, you know, before you have the other operation. And I'm really glad he did do that. He said to me that I could only really be on this menopause injection for 2 years, but because COVID happened and the pandemic, I ended up being on it for 3 years. And I mean, when it's getting up to the 2 years, I'd go every 3 months to have this injection. Is it every 3 months? Yeah, every 3 months. When it was getting close to the 2 years, I just contacted him and I just begged him. I said, look, I don't care. I just want to stay on this injection for another year. You know, I can't come off of this injection now, because, you know, it was helping to manage the symptoms with it, really. So yeah, so I had my second operation in February 2022. By this point I was, you know, pretty ill, but, you know, managing it with CBD, just taking loads of CBD and you know, but by this point I couldn't exercise. I think I had chronic fatigue syndrome as well, because what I found was that previously, before I had endometriosis, I'd exercise and I'd feel really like, woo, yeah, you know, I'd feel energised, and I'd wake up earlier in the morning and I just felt good. It made me feel really good. Whereas when I had endometriosis, when I exercised, it was painful. It was painful in my stomach, it was painful in my back. It also, the thing with it was that it just made me so absolutely exhausted. And I don't know whether it was the menopause injection or the endometriosis. All I know is that if I exercised one day, the following day I'd have to sleep for 12 hours, because my body was just so drained of energy, just depleted of energy. So, you know, and I've looked into chronic fatigue syndrome. It does sound like, you know, like I've had that. So I know some women do find exercise is really helpful for endo, you know, but for me personally, you know, if you're like me and you're struggling to exercise, you know, all I would say is that it's not the same for everybody. You know, exercise isn't good for me. I can do some light exercise, which is helpful, but anything heavy, you know, any heavy weightlifting, any really long walks, or, anything that I'm exerting too much energy, then I find that I don't have enough energy then to work because I'm just so knackered from the exercise. And for me, it's really important, you know, I need to earn a living and I need to be working. So I try to save and conserve my energy for work. And then after work, I was just sort of basically coming home. I wasn't really seeing my friends or my family. You know, I was just doing the bare essentials just so that I could keep working and keep earning a living, really. So yeah, so I had the second operation in the February, and yeah, I did feel a bit better afterwards. But even after that, I mean, I'd been bleeding from the back end for 4 years. And every time I was going for this menopause injection, I was saying to them, you know, even though I'm in the menopause, I'm still bleeding from my back end. And in this time, I'd had about 2 colonoscopies, and both my colonoscopies had shown it was completely clear. I had some polyps, but they couldn't see any endo on the colonoscopies. I've had about 5 or 6 MRI scans that didn't see any endometriosis on the bowel. In the February, when he did the operation, he said he couldn't see any endometriosis on the bowel either. So after that surgery, and I had my follow-up consultation with the endometriosis nurse, you know, I said to her, I'm still bleeding from my back end. And she said, well, it can't be endo then. She said, because if it was endo, we'd have seen it, but it's definitely not endo because it wasn't in the surgery. And I said, well, you know, I think it is endometriosis. She said, because, so endometriosis, what happens is it's like the lining of your womb, it attaches to other parts of your body and then it sheds that blood and then it scars over. So the bleeding from my back end would be different at different, you know, I bled every single day, and some days there were a lot of blood, but the blood would be a different colour on different days, and sometimes it'd be really, really smelly, and then sometimes it wouldn't be, and it was as if, you know, the lining of the endo was coming away from different parts of my bowel. So I just felt, yeah, it is definitely endo, but I was being told, no, it's not. So this is where, you know, I'm not saying that that you're gaslighted or anything in the NHS, but I think it's just that, you know, it's understandable when the surgeon is saying they can't see it, the colonoscopy, that can't be seen, you know, they're seeing that it's not there, but for me, it was there and I knew it was there, so it's really hard when there's these sort of conflicting thoughts around it. So I was sent for another colonoscopy, and that colonoscopy, I did have polyps. I had some more polyps, so they removed some. They couldn't remove them all because my prep wasn't done properly. So again, I thought, you know, in the back of my mind, well, maybe it is just these polyps, and you know, once I get these other polyps removed, then it'll be fine. You know, maybe all these 4 years I've been thinking it's endo and it's not endo. You know, silly me. So basically, this was in the February. By July, August, I started to get quite bad pain. I started to, you know, the symptoms never really went away, to be honest. I'd started to sort of mark it out of 0 to 10, 10 being extreme pain, you know, and then not being completely fine. And I was always at a 4 or 5. I was, you know, never lower than that. I woke up in the morning at 4 or 5, which was fine. I could go to work. But I knew then if it was getting to 6 or 7, I knew then I had to really start considering getting back home, because, you know, it's really hard driving when you're in 8 or 9 out of 10 pain, and I live about 20 minutes from my work. So yeah, I started marking the pain. By August, it was really, really, really bad, and I rang my doctor and I said to him, you know, it's really, really bad. It's, you know, I'm still having the symptoms. So I had an MRI scan in the September, and then I didn't actually get the results from the MRI scan until October, but it just said in the letter, yeah, you know, you've got an endometrioma in your ovary. So we're going to have a consultation and see what we can do moving forward. Now, obviously, this was after the pandemic, and I just knew, you know, I'm on a lot of support groups for endometriosis on Facebook. If you're not on them, you should definitely join them. It's really helpful to listen to other women and just to share your experience as well. You know, they were all saying that they'd had operations cancelled and that the wait list was massive and that they'd been waiting for 2-3 years. And I just knew, you know, if I need to have this endometrioma taken out, I need to, you know, I can't wait 2 or 3 years because it was getting bad. In October, I was 9 out of 10 pain 4 days a week, 4 or 5 days a week. I mean, I can't work, I can't function when I'm 9 out of 10 pain. It's just impossible. So then November, the 1st of November was the first time I had to get an ambulance because I just woke up at 5:30 in the morning and I was just crying and just literally screaming in pain, really. It was just that painful. I tried to ring an ambulance and, oh God, I feel a bit emotional. Yeah, I just tried to ring an ambulance and I couldn't even really talk on the phone because it was just so painful. And I think he was saying to me, you know, have you got a fever? Do you feel like you're going to pass out? And I thought he was asking me if I had COVID, you know, like as if to say I can't come and get you in the ambulance because you've got symptoms of COVID. And I was saying I haven't got COVID, I haven't got COVID. Anyway, he said, I can't send an ambulance for you. So I rang my sister and I was just like, look, can you just help me? And she came. And she came with my mum and, you know, thank God that they were there. Yeah, they rang the ambulance for me. And at this point, I mean, we don't get naked in front of each other in our family, you know, we never have really. But I said to my sister, I need to get in the bath, I need to get in a hot bath. And I didn't care that we're naked, I just was not bothered at all. You know, when you're in that much pain, you just do not care. I wasn't even bothered when the ambulance man came in, you know, I just didn't care because I was just in so much pain. They had to give me some gas and air to get me out of the bath, which the gas and air was really, really helpful. They got me into the ambulance, they started giving me, morphine, I think. They gave me 2.5 milligram, then they give me 5, then straight away give me 10, and that wasn't really doing much. I was still like, literally I was screaming, just screaming in pain. It was horrific. I was just, you know, if somebody had had a gun, I'd have said, you know, I'd have let him shoot me in the head because it just was not stopping. By this point, it was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon and I'd been experiencing this since 5:30. So I got into the hospital and I was begging the nurses, you know, I was screaming in pain. They gave me some more morphine or something, that didn't do anything. They took the gas and air off me, which I was really upset about because that was the only thing that seemed to be helping. And the nurses, I was on my hands and knees begging them, please, you know, just give me some drugs, just give me something, just to take this pain away. And you know, I felt a bit like they were looking at me like I was some sort of pathetic drug addict. And you know, and you know, calm down, stop screaming, everybody can hear you screaming, and you know, sort of telling me off. And I was just like, you know, I felt really pissed off with them because I just thought I've never been in the ambulance before. Even though I've wanted to, I've never done it. The only reason why I called the ambulance that day is because I could not do, you know, I was in so much horrific pain. I didn't know if maybe the endometrioma had burst. But I mean, in the hospital, they didn't even do a scan. They didn't do anything really. They just made me wait it out. And the thing with that type of pain for me is it sort of comes in bouts. It comes for like 12 hours and then it'll pass and then it'll come again a few days later for 12 hours. So the doctor came round to see me eventually and she said to me, you know, she said, my heart goes out to you. She says, because I know my friend's got endometriosis and I know it's horrific, you know, and I really do feel for you. And she was very, very, you know, empathetic and I was grateful for that. You know, especially considering the other women nurses just didn't have a clue and just didn't have any empathy at all for me really. So I went back home and getting over that flare up, I mean, I was bedridden then for a week. The pain in my stomach, it just felt like somebody had got a 2-before and just twatted me constantly in the stomach. It was really, really horrific, really, to be honest. So, you know, my family were just, you know, they'd seen me go through it and they were just like, you know, you're going to have to go private. We're going to have to get, you know, the money together and go private because you can't keep having these episodes, you know, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. So I went for a private consultation and it's an endometriosis specialist at the Spire in Elland. Dr. Gann, and he basically got me in for December, and he said to me, what was really great was even though I'd had this MRI in the September, all I knew is that I had an endometrioma. I didn't know anything about it. He actually gave me all of the details from that MRI scan, and he said it's a 7 centimetre endometrioma, which your ovary is only 3.5 centimetres, so it was twice the size of my ovary. He said, you know, we need to get this out, he said, because it's a tumour and they can turn cancerous. I know some doctors say that they can't, but, you know, my private doctor said that they can, so he was just very, you know, you need to get this out. And he was also able to do the bowel surgery as well. He said, so I told him about all the bleeding from my back end, and he said, you know, if you've got it on your bowel, we'll scrape your bowel. So, you know, luckily for me, I think that operation was £6,500, because he sort of said, you know, I'll remove the ovaries. But when I got in there for the surgery, on the 22nd of December, he said it went from like supposed to have been a 2-hour operation, it went to a 6-hour operation, because he said the endometrioma was 10 centimetres by this point, so it had grown 3 centimetres just since September. So he said it was like the size of a baby's head. It was stuck to my bladder, it was stuck to my bowel. He had to scrape endometriosis off my bowel. So, you know, what a relief, finally somebody had actually validated what I was experiencing, and he said, yeah, you did have endometriosis all over your bowel. So he scraped that, he took out my ovaries. I'd had my uterus removed in the February and they'd left the ovaries, so he removed the ovaries, and after that operation, that was the hardest operation I've had to recover from. All 3 operations I've been back walking around and fine after a week. You know, I use a lot of CBD when I'm recovering. I think that does help me. But yeah, this one, I still was all right after a week, but, you know, I mean, I had the operation on the 22nd. I thought on Christmas Day, the 25th, I'd be able to go down to my sister's, and yeah, I could just chill out and sit on the couch and be all right, not drink or anything or eat anything too unhealthy, but, you know, at least be able to leave the house. But I couldn't even hardly walk, you know. I felt like he'd scraped me out like a melon. I was just really, really, it was really painful and sore. So I had to, I had to sort of just stay in bed really for about 4 or 5 days. I tried to do a bit of walking around, but yeah, it was a lot worse trying to recover from that. So when I did start to feel better in January, I did feel a lot better than I had done for quite a while. I was able to get back into my jeans again, because I'd not wore jeans for about 4 years. I just had to constantly wear leggings or gym pants, even though I wasn't going to the gym, because my stomach was just so bloated. So I was able to put my jeans back on, you know, and I had a bit of energy, and I felt, I did feel a lot better. I mean, it's April now, and I had the operation in this last December. So, you know, I am feeling a lot better, but you know, my surgeon said to me, I had a follow-up consultation, and he said to me, look, he said, what you need to be aware of now is that with endometriosis on the bowel, what can happen is scar tissue builds up, and it can end up blocking your bowel. So he told me that he'd recently done surgery on a lady who had had bowel endometriosis surgery 10 years prior, and because of the scar tissue had built up, it had blocked her bowel, and she was losing a kidney. So, you know, it's very, very serious, is this disease, you know, if we don't monitor it and keep on check. So in August, I'm having another appointment with the private Dr. Gann, and I'm gonna have an MRI before I have the appointment with him, just to keep an eye on this bowel endo. What I am noticing is the bleeding is back again. You know, it's not as much as it has been in the past, but there is, you know, blood. You know, every day there's a little bit of blood coming from my back end. I had a colonoscopy I had a colonoscopy about 3 weeks ago. He removed 4 polyps, so there's no polyps in my bowel at all. And I said to him, you know, is the bleeding coming from the polyps? Because I bleed a lot. And he said, categorically, no, the bleeding is not coming from the polyps. So I know definitely now that the bleeding is definitely the endometriosis. So yeah, you know, I do feel concerned because, like this morning, I've woke up to do this, you know, get set up with this video. I was going to sit on the floor and do it, and I've had to, my back is really hurting, my stomach's hurting, so I've had a lot of CBD. I've put some CBD Massage Oil on my back, and I'm eating really healthy, you know, I'm just whole food diet. I'm not gluten intolerant, but I'm trying to, you know, reduce that down. And yeah, I'm going to start to think about, I mean, I'm in full-blown menopause now, so I'm on HRT. I'm on a Tibolone HRT, which is progesterone only. And my doctor said to me, you know, you could have that for 6 months, and then after 6 months we'll put you on one with a little bit of estrogen. But when I do have this appointment with him, I'm going to say no, you know, because my NHS doctor, Dr. Kramer, said to stay on Tibolone for a year, just to make sure, you know, it really does try and prevent it from coming back. He told me when I had the consultation with Dr. Kramer from the NHS the day before my surgery, and I told him, you know, I'm having surgery privately. He said, I said, how likely is it once I've had my ovaries removed, how likely is it that it's going to come back? And he said 1 in 20 women it comes back for. So that's like 5%. So I felt really, really optimistic, to be honest. But yeah, and even, you know, my private surgeon, when he came around to see me in the morning, he said, you know, it's very rare that it comes back. But when I had my follow-up consultation with him, you know, he was a little bit different. He said, you know, I think we need to keep an eye on this. I think because he realised, you know, how bad it was. So yeah, I'm going to try and stay on the progesterone Tibolone for a year, because obviously any estrogen is just going to make it grow even more. And yeah, I really need to, I'm going to start taking a supplement called NAC, which if you've never been on Nancy's Nook, if you Google Nancy's Nook, it's a fantastic resource for endometriosis. It's got lots of articles in there about endometriosis and CBD, how cannabinoids can help the symptoms of it. It's also got lots of articles about endometriosis in the bowel, and it's just a fantastic resource. It was created by a woman who had endometriosis, so you know it's a really good resource for us all. So yeah, I'm going to try the supplement NAC, which is supposed to thin the endometriosis out. I've also got a supplement called Vitex. Before I start taking them, I just need to make sure, check with my doctor that they're not going to interfere with the HRT tablet. I mean, I think the NAC is supposed to reduce endometriomas, and obviously I've not got any endometriomas now, so because I've got no ovaries, so I'm not sure if it will help or not. But you know, I've got to try different things to try and manage this. What I will say is that I am starting to prepare now to possibly either, I've got a member of staff in at work, I've got 2 members of staff now. I'm going to consider getting a 3rd member of staff in case I cannot work, so that I can work from home. Because I can work from home, it's when you have to get up and if you're in a lot of pain, you know, leaving the house, and it can make it worse really. So or even, you know, as time goes by, if it does start to get bad, I'm going to have to sell the business, because it's really hard when you're working and you've got this disease, you know. I mean, it must be hard for women that have got children, trying to look after the children when they've got this disease. It's, you know, it is a chronic disease, and it really does, you know, kick shit out of you basically. So yeah, I really need to think about the future. I need to think about what do I need to do to manage my health, and to just make my health a #1 priority. I do cryptocurrency, and I'm earning some good money from that. So it may be that, and I don't really have to do much with that. I just watch some adverts on my phone, and I get paid for it. So that is an ideal way for me to earn an income. If I can just watch some adverts on a phone, you know, that is you know, it's going to be easy for me to earn an income, because that can cause a lot of stress, and endometriosis can be worse with stress. You know, if you know, I know that a lot of women, you know, on these support groups, they talk about these healthy diets, and they talk about, you know, eating whole foods or eating vegan or eating all organic. And you know what, that is brilliant. You know, if you've got a massive food budget and you've got loads of time, you don't work, you've got the time to go shopping, buy it all every 2-3 days, and then you've got the time to prepare it all, then that is fantastic. I'm pleased for you. But you know, if you're working full time and you've got a limited budget for food, it's really, really difficult to, you know, to be extremely healthy. You know, when you've got so much going on. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to do moving forward. I'm going to keep taking my CBD. It is like last night I didn't have any. I went to sleep about 10 o'clock. I didn't have any last night. And then I woke up about 3 in the morning with pain. So I took some CBD then, and I just thought, why didn't I take it before I went to bed? Because when I take it before I go to sleep, it just makes me sleep through right from 11 right till 7 in the morning. So yeah, I had to have some CBD quite late at night last night, and yeah, I managed to get back off to sleep and have another few hours. So yeah, I need to be really vigilant now with this. I don't want it to get worse, and I need to prepare. You know, I need to plan in case it does get worse, and plan. You know, either having someone else running my business or selling it, because it's yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to run it if it gets bad again. So yeah, I do hope that you've you know, got some benefit out of this video. You know, if anything, I just want you to know that, you know, if you have got the symptoms of endometriosis, you're not on your own. I know it can feel like that sometimes when, you know, your family and your friends, you know, might not understand the pain that you're in, or the discomfort that you're in, or the chronic fatigue that you're experiencing. You know, I know it really does disrupt your life. It disrupts your work life. It disrupts your social life. You know, you can never really plan anything because you never know whether you're going to be in pain or not. So, you know, I just want you to know that you're not the only person, you know, that feels like this. There's loads of different support groups. If you have any comments, you can comment below. I'm happy to chat to you. You know, join some of the endometriosis support groups on Facebook. Have a look on Nancy's Nook. And, you know, if you're not getting anywhere with your doctors, keep going back. I know it's really hard to fight when you're so ill. It's so exhausting trying to keep fighting. You know, but just keep going back until you get some type of resolve, whether that's some sort of contraceptive or the menopause injection, or get booked in for an operation. You know, just educate yourself about this disease, and try whatever you can try to make yourself feel better. And, you know, if on days you're feeling like absolute shit and you can't do anything, and your mind starts telling you you're not good enough, you know, you should be doing more, you know, and you feel guilty or you feel ashamed because you're letting people down, do you know what I've learned to do is I've learned to say no, I can't do that, and not feel guilty about it, and not even explain myself afterwards, not be like, well, I know I'm sorry, but I'm, you know, just no, I can't. And I've learned to just tell myself, do you know what, I've got a chronic disease, I'm doing the best I can do, and if the best I can do is staying in bed today, then that is good enough. And I'm just going to watch something funny on Netflix and just take loads of CBD, and I'm just going to meditate and just allow myself this time just to let my body be with this disease. So yeah, I hope this has been helpful to you, and if you have any questions or you want to make a comment below, just write below. Thanks for watching.